Alright, welcome back to Mind and Magic. In the previous video, we had quite an interesting spirit chat with the SB7 Spirit Box. If you haven't watched that yet, I will leave a link to that up here. And as I stated in that video, before editing it, I only made out about 3 replies that were very clear. Clear enough to where I could pick them up and hear them with my own ears. And the rest are always either too low or way too fast for me to understand them, until I play back the recording and scrutinize over it during editing. This is when I'm able to hear things that I wasn't able to during the live session. And then, of course, I subtitle them for you, what I believe that I'm hearing. And we got a lot of great replies off of this session. There wasn't a lack of communication at all. In fact, as I'm trying to shut down the session, they kept wanting to talk. But I only have so much time and I have a schedule to stick to. So I needed to close it down. And I didn't really have all that many more questions anyway. I think it would be very interesting for maybe the next spirit chat that I read your questions to the spirit box and see what we get. So if you have a question for the spirit box for spirit chat number 10, which may not be for a while, but leave them down below in the comments section here so that when I do go to do the session, I can just pull them right out of the comments. All right, so immediately upon turning on the spirit box, I started getting replies. In fact, even before I started recording, which was my fault, because I know one that was really loud and long came through, but the speed and surprise of it made me not understand what it was saying at the time. Again, that's my fault. I should always start the recording before turning on the spirit box. But one of the first replies I got was, "We wait," like waiting for me to start the session because I turned on the spirit box, but I was still starting the recording and getting my microphone in position. And it seemed like they were acknowledging that they had to wait before starting the session. There was a voice that came through and said, "You stickler." That was kind of an abnormal one. I don't know exactly what that would be referring to. I mean, I am a stickler for some things, like rules, but I've been called worse, so it didn't really bother me. I thought it was kind of humorous that, of all things, stickler would be something that come through. Then there were some replies that really couldn't make them out forwards, but when I reversed them, then they said something. Like one of the best ones was the one that said, "Do you need help?" I always find those to be pretty interesting. I like how when I first said hello, there was a noise immediately afterwards, like acknowledging that. Hello, spirits. But one of the best responses in the entire session was when I asked, "What is your name?" And I immediately got David and Albert. Now, David, I didn't hear at the time of the session. That one was very, very low, and I have to enhance the volume just to be able to hear it. So I didn't hear that one, but Albert came through very, very clear. And that would be considered Class A. There is no mistaking what was said there. And it was in direct response to the question that I asked. I asked for a name, I got a name. I got 2 names. But the Albert was very, very impressive. Please tell me your name. Albert. Now, when I asked what their purpose was, I got a reply of "in the dark," and it sounded like the same voice that Albert came through as. Now, it didn't really make much sense in regards to the question. However, it was one of the only other replies that I heard with my own ears and acknowledged in the recording. As you can tell if I can make out what it's saying in real time, because I will acknowledge it at the time. You will hear me do so. If I don't say anything about it, then I'm not making it out. But I did hear that. I thought it said "in the dark" or "in a door." Something like that. After playing it over and over, it sounds more like "in the dark." Albert, are you still with me? Then you have these kind of replies that almost seem very electronic voice sounding. but you can still make out words that they're saying. And I love this one where it says, your neighbor. Very electronic, almost robot sounding. Those kind of replies are kind of fun to decipher. Now, here's an example of a reply that spawns multiple voices. And you'll get this sometimes where one voice will say a word and then the next voice will say the next word, but it's all part of the same sentence or saying. And this is because the spirit box is just rapidly sweeping through radio frequencies, and then it's alleged that the spirits have to manipulate those frequencies to speak through the device. So they use what's on the frequency. So it could be sweeping through frequencies, and it uses a male voice, but then the next frequency in the scan is a female voice that it's using. So you can never really assume when it comes to the spirit box that a male-sounding voice is a male spirit or a female-sounding voice is a female spirit, because they're just using what they have there for them. Different voices could be, in theory, the same spirit, especially when you get replies like this. What I find even more fascinating is that it seems that spirits may not be just talking to you. They converse with each other while you're trying to communicate with them. They're greeting each other and having their own conversations. And because I was getting so many different voices coming through, it made me wonder how many spirits were with us. So, I asked them, and I got a reply of everything from 80 to 600. Albert, how many spirits are with you right now? And that seemed to impress even them, as you get a lot of woo sounds like they're celebrating. Those tend to happen quite often, actually, especially in this session. And at one point I tried to get a hold of Albert's attention again, not knowing if he was still around. I asked him if he was still with me, and I did get a voice of, I'm always by you, which is kind of unsettling, but it is what it is. And then not long after, I get a reply, we're always near it. Are you still with me?
Always near it.
Now, a lot of people say because we're scanning through radio frequencies that the voices are just voices playing on the radio. And that's true. That's coming from those frequencies. But the scan rate is so fast, and the rate I was using was 200 milliseconds. So 1/5 of a second before it switches channels. That's the time that these voices have to come through. And of course, it takes longer for them to say anything than 200 milliseconds. So the longer the reply, the more impressive that it is. But this is also one of the reasons why they speak so fast. They're trying to get out as much as they can while they can. So, for example, we had that one reply of, I got a free car and it, ? I don't know what it said after that. But that may be something that you hear on the radio. I got a free car. But the speed in which it was said, nobody talks like that. So people always want to know how you could say it's a spirit and not just a radio. And it really has to do with the sweep rate. How fast it's cycling through the frequencies. Because it's just constantly running through the frequencies. Now, the funniest reply of all that I got the entire session, I heard with my own ears. And you know how I reacted. It cracked me up. I had to take a bit of a pause because I was laughing. But at the time, I was letting them know that I couldn't see them, that in order for me to know that they were still there, they would have to speak with me. And of course, that's when I got, it's our job, bro. So in order for me to know if you're still here, you have to speak with me.
It's our job, bro.
That's certainly the funniest reply that I've gotten so far. and it's going to be tough to beat. But it did pose an interesting question on top of the reply of, is it their job to not let people see them? Somehow they're just not allowed to? So not only was the answer funny, but it made me think. It was certainly a very interesting reply. When I asked what exactly is their job, I got the reply, I guess it's stop her, which I don't know who they're referring to. Then I started asking about our cat who had passed away last year, and I wanted to know if there were animal spirits in the house. I got a reply of trace, which is 3 in Spanish. Animal, he'll find them, and they bite. Well, my old prairie dogs would bite. They don't like strangers. They never bit me in their life, but they would bite somebody else. But then I moved on to the cat, and I got some very interesting replies, such as pet's life, don't stop now, and that's my name, along with some noises that almost sound meow-like. Not quite a cat meow, but not quite a person doing it either, kind of like an in-between. It was odd. Is Pumpkin here with me now? Pumpkin the cat? And I didn't dwell on that subject too long because I didn't want it to make me upset or emotional. And I was pretty much out of questions, so I tried to end the session. And when I dismissed them in the name of the Most High, I got some pushback. Be ready to come when called again, and peace be with you. In the name of the Most High. Now, I found this one to be very interesting when he said, did Yahweh leave? It would almost be expected in the house of a magician. No, Yahweh's always here. The divine's always around, in one form or another. But I love that response coming from the spirit box. And, of course, I'm dismissing the spirits. They don't want to go. Goodbye, spirits. Well, it's funny that they use 71 because 71 is the year of my birth. And it's interesting because when you're doing magic for other people or to other people, it's good to know their birth date and have it written across their picture or something as a sympathetic link because it helps spirits find and identify. In case people have the same name, I guess. But they know all about birth dates. And it's interesting that they would say 71. It's almost like they're referring to me. But then they say it's on. And no, I don't want it to be on. I want you to leave. I want to say goodbye. And so I can close out this session. Go in peace. Be at rest. All in all, a really fascinating session. This was one of the better sessions I think that I've had. And even though some replies were cursing or I got some pushback, the session just felt better. You know, I've had some pretty hostile sessions. I've had some sessions that just did not feel good at all. I even had a session where I wound up in the hospital not long after. Not saying it was from that, but it wasn't long after. You have to really be cautious when you're communicating with the deceased. Or spirits in general. For the most part, the spirits all seem good-natured and were eager to communicate. And that's what makes a good session. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. And again, leave your questions for the next spirit chat down below. And I'll see you soon. Take care.